attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar today. We'll begin shortly, but first I wanted to give you a little bit of ground rules for what you can do in order to post your questions and also access the hands-on session for Asif's webinar today. I want to remind you that this is a hands-on webinar, which means that each of you have the opportunity to access a SharePoint 2013 environment that we've hosted for today's webinar on CloudShare. Feel free to use this during the session to walk through the steps that Asif is showing you on his screen. To follow along with the presenter steps during the webinar using your own environment, be sure to click on the link that we've provided for you in the chat window that you'll see in the panel for this GoToWebinar today. If you click on that link, you're going to be asked to sign up for a CloudShare account if you haven't done that previously. It's a very quick process. After you fill out that form and you click Submit, you'll be taken right into the SharePoint 23 environment that Asif has set up and he'll be using for today's webinar. Please also note that today's session will be recorded and we will make it available to everyone later on. So you'll receive a follow-up email linking you to the recording as well. And if you have any questions during today's session, please don't be shy. Feel free to post your questions in the chat window, or more specifically, if you use the questions tab that you see on the panel for the webinar, we will be monitoring those questions throughout Asif's presentation, and at a couple of points as he's doing the webinar, we will feed him those questions and he'll do his best to answer what you've posted online. And then we will have a dedicated at least 5 to 10 minutes at the end of today's webinar. So we will be reading the questions that you post in that questions tab out loud, and Asif will be doing his best to answer all of them. So please be sure to post your questions there. And without further ado, I'm happy to introduce Asif Rehmani. Asif has been training and consulting on primarily SharePoint technology since 2004. He is a SharePoint Server MVP and MCT. He runs a SharePoint Videos website, SharePointVideos.com, which he will be providing that specific URL to you in a few minutes, and also at the end of today's webinar, where he provides SharePoint, SharePoint Designer, and InfoPath video tutorials. His videos have been published at Microsoft's TechNet, Channel 9, and Office.com sites. He also provides in-person and online SharePoint training publicly and in private workshops through Critical Path training. And now, Asif, I turn it over to you.
Great. Thank you, Sonia. I think you'll need to also make me the presenter from your side. Oh, never mind. I think I'm already the presenter. Let me go ahead and start showing the screen here. Here we go. Let me know if you can see it okay. Okay, I'm assuming you can. All right.
Yes, we can see your slide, Asif. Looks great.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. So first of all, thanks to CloudShare. CloudShare, I think, is a great platform, seriously, to have the hands-on experience that you need to be able to learn something, to be able to play around with something, get comfortable with something. And I personally have been a believer and user of CloudShare for many years now in my classes and my conference sessions that I present and webinars that I do. And the good thing about this particular webinar is you all who are there can actually use the same exact environment that I'm using as well, and then follow along if you want to, at least for certain parts of it. So to give you a hands-on approach of how things are done, right? That's the best way to learn, obviously. I'm sure you agree. So today we're talking about building SharePoint 2013 browser-based solutions. Okay, focus on the browser. There are, of course, many other ways also to build solutions. And what I want to do is show you pieces of different things that you could do with SharePoint 2013 to get you started. So it's not a complete initial walkthrough, which we did in the last session, which is also recorded and available from CloudShare, I believe. But this one goes a step further. We talk about the components of the site. We talk a little bit more about the different things you can do on the site. And we'll go from there. All right? So once again, my name is Asif Rehmani. As Sonia said, SharePoint MVP and MCT and an author. SharePoint-videos.com is our site where you'll find lots of good information. Asif Rehmani is my Twitter handle, as is stated over there. I'm going to go ahead and give you 2 minutes about our company, and then we'll go into the actual webinar, okay? So just to begin with, our flagship product is Visual SP. Visual SP is a in-context, on-demand help for SharePoint users, like it says. So, basically showing, here we go, this help tab, showing a help tab directly for the users. And within the help tab, you can have videos, you can have images, you can have documents, whatever you want to provide as an administrator or as a site collection administrator to your users, you can do. And we pride ourselves in having this solution because we think that when you put the solution, when you put the information directly in front of the users, it just gets used a lot more. So visualsp.com, check that out. And also it is SharePoint 2013 compatible as well. Second thing, we also have multi-user access to SharePointVideos.com. If you have interest in having 10, 20, 50, 100,000 people access our site, we have different plans for that. And there's lots and lots of topics covered all the way from SharePoint 2007 to SharePoint 2010, and we have lots of SharePoint 2013 stuff as well now, and all these different topics: BCS, workflows, access, term store branding, etc. And one last thing, we also run one-day online training classes. The next one that's coming up in a week, actually less than a week now, is SharePoint 2013 development, and then after that is SharePoint Designer 2013 workflows, something near and dear to my heart. I've done workflows quite a bit. And then search, and then also the JavaScript and jQuery for SharePoint. So anyway, check it out. Go to SharePointVideos.com if you get a chance, and let us know if you have any questions. Okay, let me jump in. Quick things. Sonia already mentioned that there is this permalink that's in your chat window, so check that out, and that's how you can get access to the environment. The entire webinar is being recorded, made available by CloudShare later. This is just, in my humble opinion, some of the tips that you might need for a good hands-on experience with the webinar. So try to follow and do things, not everything, but try to click around and put some stuff in there. I think you'll have more fun that way. If you do have two monitors, I would recommend putting one monitor for just dedicated GoToMeeting presentation and having the second monitor where you actually do the work in the CloudShare environment. And enjoy the process. Don't worry about the final product. Just enjoy doing it. That's where you're going to have the most fun, I think. And yeah, Q&A panel, please use it. I love getting questions. I love trying my best to answer the questions. I don't know if I'll succeed in every question, but I'm going to try my best to do that. My assumption today for the audience, you have at least intermediate knowledge of SharePoint 2010. If not, that's fine, no worries, but if you do, you can have the most fun that way, I think. And you're looking to discover what's new in SharePoint 2013, right? Focus today, ways to add functionality using just the browser. I'm a huge proponent of saying that, you want to try to do whatever you can possibly do using the browser first. And as far as the internet browser goes, these days Microsoft supports Internet Explorer and Firefox equally well. So either one is going to be just fine. When you go to Safari, there's some diminished functionality in administration of your SharePoint sites. But as long as you stick with Firefox on either platform, Mac or PC, you'll be just fine, is my experience. So the scenario here, excuse me, that we're talking about, you're a site owner without any access to any other tools except your browser. So what can you do? What are some of the things that you can do with that? We're going to talk about those things, right? All right, let's see over here. I think that's it for, yeah. Let me switch now to my VM. This is the VM that I'm using, as Sonia mentioned before as well, SharePoint 2013 RTM Farm. So you want to go ahead and bring that up as well. Basically, when you're in the environment, it just says show my environment in the browser, and that's what I did, and now it's showing me in the browser, right? And I'm going to go ahead and put in full screen mode to show you this environment. This is just a very typical team site. Nothing else that I did with it. It's just a very, very blank team site. And what I want to do is do something with this site, of course, without any other tool except the browser. Let's talk about some basic things first, basic foundational things first. as I mentioned before, that if you have SharePoint 2010 experience, you will benefit a little bit more from this webinar, because I'm going to be talking a little bit more about what we have in SharePoint 2010 and what is SharePoint 2013 and how it's similar or different. So of course, structure and all that stuff is very similar to a SharePoint 2010 site. One big change, the way I look at it, is this gear over here is the site actions. It's on the right, used to be on the left, and then actually if you're from SharePoint 2007, it used to be on the right at that time. So it went from right to left, back to right. Anyway, you know, you can edit links. This, of course, you want to put links for your sub-sites, for other sites, departments, etc. on the top link bar. On the left link bar, you want to put in the information or pages or list links to your internal to your site. Okay, that's one big thing I think people kind of miss, where some of the best practices you want to keep in mind, and that's one of the best practices, that quick launch should be used for site internal things for the most part. And yeah, you can edit the links directly here. Very cool to be able to do that, right? Click on edit links and let you edit the link right there instead of you having to go out and all. As I mentioned, I'm not going to go through the whole interface, because I did that in the last webinar that we did together, CloudShare and SharePoint videos. You are more than welcome to watch that webinar to learn about all the different features of the site. So what is the news feed? What is SkyDrive? You know, what does it mean to sync? What happens when I click on this thing? Let me just go ahead and click on it anyway, just to show you. This maximizes, hides the quick launch basically. You see that? The quick launch now is gone. So this quick launch that was here before is no longer there anymore. That's the main thing that happens. Anyway. Yeah, at first when I saw this, I thought it was going to maximize the whole screen, the Internet Explorer. But you know, you can of course maximize Internet Explorer just by clicking on F11 as well. Here we go. You can do that, but that's different than this maximize button here. It's basically playing with the styles and then just hiding the quick launch. In any case, so all these things that are present, you want to go ahead and check out this other CloudShare webinar, and you'll find all this information there. Let's talk about some of the internals of this site. You know, when you had a SharePoint 2010 team site, you were used to going to site contents and seeing all kinds of stuff there. Let me see. So when I go to site contents, which it's thinking about right now, it's going. Here we go. Here I only see documents, microfeed, site pages, and site assets. Where is my calendar? Where's my task list? Where's my links list? Where's my announcements list? Right? All those things are not here. And documents now, as it says, it's used to be called shared documents, and now it's documents, which I think it's a good way to change this around, because the wording shared documents kind of got mixed up with what it was supposed to be used for. In any case, how do you add those other things that are not here? Obviously, you can click on Add an App and start adding things, right? But let me show you a shortcut before you go down this route. A couple of main things that you will want on your site is going to be the task list and the calendar list. Right? Those things generally I put on every site anyway. You really need those things. And you can, of course, put them in from here. Every single thing is called an app now. So there's a calendar app right here. There's a tasks right there. But an easier way, and the team site guides you in the home page. An easier way when you're at your team site, when you're at your home page, is by clicking on, come on, there's one of the buttons, one of the promoted links, what it's called, which just says, here we go, working on a deadline. Yeah. Get organized with tasks, timeline, and calendar. So I'm going to click on that. And this will just open up a dialog asking me that, is this what you want to add? Tasks with a timeline and a calendar? Yeah, that's what I want. So it's just a very quick and easy way to add these two apps. That's all it does, really. It asks these two apps, and it adds a web part, timeline web part on this page as well. You'll see that in just a second. The timeline web part is new. Looks pretty cool, and it's hooked up with the tasks list. So if you add in tasks and you say that I want to see them in the timeline, you know, for project management purposes and all, it will show you those things right there. And then you can move around some of the descriptions of the tasks as well. It's pretty cool the way it works. Yeah, so here's how you can click on edit and go to task list, and go from there. Let's see, working on it. This is also new. All right, so here we go. This is where you can go ahead and add tasks, etc. That's a simple, easy stuff, right? Let me go back to home. And the next thing that you'll want to do most probably is something that SharePoint is used for a lot, which is document sharing, right? We've all heard, I'm sure, that we have so many documents in SharePoint. It's just become a file sharing hub, nothing else. Well, it is supposed to be a file sharing hub, but it's supposed to be a whole lot more. Now, in regards to the file sharing hub concept, one of the main complaints that people have had is when I want to add documents, I don't know exactly how to do that. What is this upload document that appears at the bottom, and there's this tab that appears on top when I click on web part like that? What am I supposed to do? So one of the easiest things, and I'm sure many of you have already seen this, but let me go ahead and do this anyway here, is taking the documents you want. So the end user just takes the stuff they want and drag it directly onto their documents web part, right? So let's say I'll take this one, and this one. Okay, I'm just gonna drag and drop them on the documents web part. Completely compatible with all different browsers, and seems hopefully an easy, intuitive thing. Those of you who have been working with SharePoint, maybe even since 2001 or 2003 or so, say, yeah, I know about this thing, and I've seen it because I'm sure you're caught up on this thing. But imagine how things used to be before and how they are right now with this thing. And this could be one of those things where it could really sell SharePoint for you on your behalf to your users. Look how easy it is to upload documents. Now, here's something I'm going to show you that you might not know about. I can bet that most of you do not know about this. Let me show you. So I'm going to add an app, and this one is going to be another document library, right? That's, of course, you can have multiple document libraries in your site. Okay, so it's waiting. Here we go. Click on document library, and I'm going to name it simply docs. So what I want to show you is that many times when people want to manage their documents, what they're really talking about by management is changing the name, changing the metadata, moving around the document, going into the document, making changes, things like that, right? That's your management of your document. So one of the things, which is a simple thing, but it's been so painful before, is moving your documents from library to library. I have these documents here, and I want to take this one, for example, the full income statements, and I want to move it from here to here. How do I do that? I have to go in here into the ellipses here and share. What do I do? Well, there's an easier way. You don't have to do all that stuff. You don't have to download a copy and then upload it into the docs library. Here's what you do. Just go over here, drag it directly to docs. Okay, so as you can see, before I let it go, it says move, and it has moved. When I go to docs now, okay, it's going. It says we're working on it. Here we go. So it has moved easily. You can do that for moving documents from library to library, from a root of the library to a folder within the library. You can even do that to go from site to site. So if you had two different browsers open, for example, you could take it from one site and drag it to a different site. There's a video that you can watch on SharePointVideos.com on all the different possibilities of that as well. We did extensively all different things that you can do and what you cannot do. So yeah, there's, simple in this case thing, but something that is one of those things which has been a pain in where for a really long time, and this making it so simple will help definitely users to buy into SharePoint quite a lot more. All the little things count, don't they? Another thing is the theming engine. So if I'm a site owner and I want to make my site look beautiful, there were ways that you could do it, but it was not as intuitive. It was good. It was not great, and it required some little bit more thought than you needed to give. Now, if I just go here and say, what's your style? Let's go here. Change the look of your site. Okay. And by the way, these are all promoted links. That's what it's called. It's a web part, basically, which is driven off a list called promoted links list. You can create your own promoted links with these nice kind of boxes and change the background image. In any case, so I got this really cool gallery of different themes, right? And let me pick something, nothing too drastic, maybe this guy right here. I want to pick this. It's going into it right now. And you'll see when it's into it, here you go, that there is an image that is right here. And this image can be changed if you wanted to. So, it shows this pattern currently. But if I didn't want to show this pattern, if I wanted to change that to have a different image altogether, which, by the way, if you're wondering where that image appears, you can see it's right there in the background. Yeah. So if I want to remove that completely, I click on, of course, this remove button right here, or I can take a picture that I have, which I do. Just go over here, pictures. Here we go. And come on. Sorry, it disappeared on me. So I can just take this picture here and drag it on here. And it's even cooler when you do it on a tablet, which is what I'm doing right now. Very nice experience to have that, right? Okay, so this should update. Come on. Let's see. I'll click on try it out. This should have updated right now already. Okay, it says working on it and all. We'll see. But you have to try it out and then you can commit to it. And I'm still showing you some simple things here and there that you should know about, and then I'm going to go a little bit more complex things. Next thing, by the way, what I'll be talking about is something called geolocation and how you can show mapping data on your lists. So bear with me here as I finish this out, and we'll jump into that. Okay, so when it comes up, it's going to be a design preview of what I want to see pretty soon. Here it is. Okay. I can say, yeah, let's keep it, or no, not quite there, and then, have this taken or not taken. So, I'll just say, yeah, let's keep it. It's kind of dark, but okay, it's fine. Okay. So while this is doing that, let me talk to you about the next thing that I want to show. One of the main things that people ask all the time is, I want to show some mapping data in my site, because we have, for example, the scenario I'm going to use is we have salespeople all around the country, and we want to be able to show where each person is, and we want to be able to show some mapping. And Asif, we have seen that you can use that. You can use some JavaScript, some Jquery, some other kind of cool stuff out there that you can do. But is there anything native that I could do without introducing that stuff in there? And there is something native. So here's what it is. I'm going to go to. Actually, I'm going to make a new app over here.
Hey Asif, as you're doing that, we just had some input. Hey Asif, while you're doing that, we just had some input. If you could move a little closer to the microphone, please.
Okay, sure.
Thank you so much.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do. I am at add an app right now, and I'm going to add a contacts app, which is this one right here. As you're doing that, let me check one of the settings here as well and go to meeting, make sure it's using the right microphone. Yep. Okay. So salespeople, let's call it that, salespeople. What I want to do is add a couple of people on here, and with those couple of people, I'm going to show their location, where they are. One is in Chicago, one happens to be in New York, for example. Let's go to contacts list. Where is it? Oh, here we go. Salespeople is what I called it. in the list settings, at the bottom, so when it gets in there at the bottom, you'll see there's a way to add columns, which is right here, add from existing site columns. Okay, there is a site column that should be visible, hopefully in your environment as well, and it's Geolocation column. Okay, here we go. So it's under the custom columns group. Now this column, the geolocation column, is not automatically turned on. I did turn it on in this environment. Hopefully you got the latest environment for that. This is a custom column, and when you add this column to any list or library, this accepts latitude and longitude coordinates, which will let you map out some data if you wanted to. Here's what I mean. I'm going to go back to salespeople. There we go. And let's go ahead and add a new item. Right? New item. Come on, new item. It's coming. So the item that I'm going to add here is going to be my name, which is Rehmani, first name Asif, and at the bottom here, specify location. Okay, let's specify location. Okay. Well, okay, here we go. So it's asking me, well, first I could have used my location here as well, but I don't think that's going to work on the virtual machine that I'm in right now. So specify location is what I want to use. I want to provide it a specific latitude and longitude. And for that, let me get some help from, okay, here we go, maps.bing.com. So this actually also is a little bit weird at times. I think it's going to work this time. Let's see, Chicago. Okay, so that's where I am, by the way, folks. I'm in Chicago. Let me go ahead and copy the first one is the latitude, and that's this. The second one, coordinate, is the longitude. Let's take that, put that in here, and see what happens. And there you go. Just like that, it's got this nice live map. Now, of course, there's something here that says, well, your credentials, which I have not provided, are invalid. So there's just a API key, basically. You just have to go to bingmapsportal.com and then register yourself once, basically. I have not done that. But if you did that, then this white mark would go away. Let me click on Save and show you what this looks like. In your list, salespeople list in this case, it's just going to show, you know, Rehmani, Asif, and then geolocation right here. And you click on this geolocation map, and this comes up like that. Okay, let's do one more. New item. Okay, it's going. It's working hard for us. Smith, Tom, and let's say Tom is from New York. Good old New York. So we'll get the coordinates for that. The first one is this. Copy. Specify location. Okay, here we go. And the second one is the following. Okay, so that's the New York Bing map. Now this is all well and good, but you might say, you know what, can't I have a view showing right away which shows this mapping information instead of showing this icon that I have to go into? Well, yes, you can, because there is a new view called a map view that you can use. If I go to the List tab and click on Create View, what this will allow me to do when it comes up is make the map view. Here it is, map view. Okay, and when it comes up, I'm just going to simply name it map. That's fine. Make sure you have the geolocation column checked, which I do. I'll click on OK. And just by doing that, let's see what it looks like. I should be able to, here we go, I get my map view right there in the list. Now I'm sure different things are going through your mind, like, oh, I could use this, for that, for this. I mean, there's definitely so many applications of having a nice live map view directly within your SharePoint list, right, or SharePoint library. So you could do that simply just by using the geolocation column. Okay. You know what? So Sonia, I think this would be a good time right now. We're right at the half hour. Let's take some questions if there are any, and then I'll continue.
Yes, this would be a perfect time. We have some questions queued up here. I'll take them in the order that we've received them so far. Clayton had a question. Does the document drag and drop bypass the capture of metadata? If so, what happens if the metadata field is required?
Good point. So if a metadata field is required and you're trying to put something in, what it does, it leaves the actual document checked out. Okay, and then you have to just go in and fill in the metadata, and then you can check it in. So similarly, what used to happen before as well, if you try to throw something in there by using a drag and drop that we had in 2010, a little bit different drag and drop, but still drag and drop, the same kind of functionality exists.
Okay. If you have time for another question, Haniel asks, is there a version control on a document being moved? Is the whole history of the document moved or just the current version?
That's actually a very good question, and I will tell you that I'm 99.9% sure that it is the whole document, including the versions that get moved, because it is a move that it's doing. It's not really a copy in this case, right? Maybe I should experiment that a little bit more and check it. We won't have time to do all that stuff right now, but I'm almost 100% sure that I'm correct in this case, where the whole artifact with the versions does get moved.
Okay, and then we actually have a couple of different variations on the metadata question and requirements. So Brenda and Alexander asked a similar question that you just answered for Clayton, I believe, but I'll feed it to you anyway to make sure there isn't a little bit of a difference. When dragging and dropping a file, what happens if there's required meta tags? And then Alexander's question was, is there a way to force metadata to be entered upon drag and drop?
Okay. So the first one, yes, the question was exactly the same as the previous question. The second one, it's the person is asking, can I auto tag it? Can I auto set the metadata for the document when it's being inserted somewhere? Now, not by default. That's not what document library, well, I shouldn't say that. There is a default column choice, of course, that you can provide for every column. So if you have done that, automatically we'll take the default choice. But my suspicion here is that's not what you want to do, because you don't want every single thing to be tagged Chicago, for example, because that's the default tag. You want it to have some type of maybe automatic algorithm for it to see, hey, where's this person from? Let's tag it to that person's name, right? Or I mean this person's city, if it's a region or a city kind of column, let's say, or whatever like that. Well, that auto tagging does not exist directly in a library. You could set things up where you could do this in a workflow. You could do that with some policy rules. You could do all that stuff, but all that stuff will require time and energy to make that happen. There are companies out there as well. I know for a fact there's a company called Concept Searching, for example, which does this kind of auto taxonomy tagging for you for the metadata, any kind of metadata, whether it be site columns, regular columns, or taxonomy-based columns, term store-based columns. So they will do it for you for a price, of course, but automatically you can't really force the users to tag something, unfortunately. Okay.
Okay, and do you have time for one more, or should we save the rest for the end?
Let's do it. One more.
Mike A. has a brief question. Can you custom colors in style? Can you use custom colors in style?
You can make your own style. There was, I think I didn't show it, and I don't want to go back to the interface right now to show it, but when you go to the themes, there's a drop down. You know, when you get into a specific theme, there's a drop down which shows different color palettes. And there's 5 or 6 of them, I believe, for each theme, maybe even more. So you can choose any of those. If you're not satisfied with any of those, you want to make your own color file. There is a color file basically. There's a color palette file, and there's also a font file, and both of them exist in your style library, I'm pretty sure, on your site collection. So you go into your style library and you go into the theme and you say, you know what, I want to change this around. So you can go ahead and change it directly in there, or you can put your own themes or your own colors in there. So there's definitely ways, of course, for you to select colors that are particular to your theme, to your requirement, to your company. Absolutely. But you do have to do a little bit more XML-driven changes. It's all text-based. XML, of course, is text-based. So you can go ahead and do that, and once you do it one time, just put in the right hex values and everything else for your colors, you're all set. Because then you can tell your users, go ahead and pick any of these color palettes because they all correspond to our company colors. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Is that okay, Sonia?
That's perfect. We'll do our best to go through the questions that are remaining towards the end of the session.
Sounds good. All right, now let's do something a little bit more exciting. I mean, yes, this whole geolocation column is pretty good and well, but there's something which personally I think is even a little bit more exciting for the site owners. Now, having said that, let me also put a disclaimer out there that what I'm about to show you, what I'm about to do, you definitely want to get permission from your department head or your team lead and all that. Hey, can I do this? Where should I do this? Maybe you want to do this on your test site first before doing it in your production site, etc. It is fairly safe, but of course things could go wrong, so you want to be careful. Okay, so what I'm talking about here is insertion of Jquery items directly on your site. Okay, let me go back to the home page of the site, so start from there. Let's say that you're adding a new page and you want some content to be on that page, right? So you go to this gear icon right here, which is good old site actions. You say add a page. And I'm going to put in maybe some product info is what I intend to put on this page, right? By the way, one really good thing about the naming now is it puts a hyphen right there. I don't know if you see that, but there's a hyphen that's right there, small hyphen, and a bit between the words, and actually that's really good for search capability, for indexing and all. Anyway, I'm going to click on create, and it will make the product info page for me. Within this page, what I want to do, as I mentioned before, is put some information, but I want to make it more dynamic than the regular old bullet points and all. And I want it, and I have a lot of information, so I want to maybe put some tabs or put some kind of a dynamic item, something like that in there. How do you do that? You know, that's the question. How do you make that happen? Okay, so I'm going to take you to a site. And that site is called jqueryui.com. Wonder if any of you have been there before. There's a trick to it, but it's not extremely difficult. You can take any of the components that are on the site, or sites like this out there as well. For example, insertion of Accordion, insertion of autocomplete, button, date picker, dialog. The kind of things that you want to see on your forms and on your site, on your pages. Let me show you what Accordion is. What is this thing? So as I was saying before, you have sections of data, right? And you have lots of data, let's say. Wouldn't it be nice to have functionality like that directly on your site? Section 1, Section 2, 3, and 4. So, and you can customize this stuff here as well. Say I want to customize it to make it look different, and then once you are done doing whatever you want to do, you click on View Source on the site. Okay, once again, you want to get some permission from your site collection administrator and beyond before you do any of these kind of things, because it is insertion of code now on your site. But here's a style sheet. Here's some code libraries that it's linking to, and then this is the actual function that it's calling. And down here is the data. So there's a div ID accordion, which if you look at the top, that's exactly what it's calling. It's calling a function on that, right? And here's all the different data for your accordion widget. So here's what I will do. First, I'm going to go back to my site, prepare that. How do you put some jQuery code or whatever in your site? First of all, I'm not asking anybody to write code, by the way. This is not what it's all about. It's very much about the copy-paste type of coding. Okay. So insert web part. There's a specific web part under media and content, and it's called script editor. This script editor web part is the one that will let you introduce script into your site. So let's click on add. Okay, once it comes up, here we go. I'm going to go ahead and say, let me modify this web part or edit this web part. When the edit window appears, which is right here, I get this edit snippet right here, right? Edit snippet. Let's click on that. Paste some script or embed code below. Okay, so the code that I need to embed in this case is going to be not everything, but just the script here is the actual function, and then the links to the style, or the links to the style sheet, and also the link to the script file that I have that's pointed to jQuery. Okay, let's do this again. Control C to copy it. Back here. Oops. Okay. Good old Windows 8, or Windows 2012 in this case. Okay, so I want to go ahead and paste it here. It is putting a lot of spaces in between. Hopefully that's not going to be a problem. We'll see. If it is, I have it on a notepad as well. Click on insert, and then I'll click on OK here. So far all I've done is inserted some code to the page, right? It's going. There we go. Now, there's no content on this page yet. Actual content that I need to put in there is going to go into this guy right here. So this is where you can go and say, I want to edit the actual HTML markup for the contents of this page, like it says. So I'll click on that. Come on. There we go. HTML source. So that's what it is so far. These paragraph tags right here is where I can put my content. So right here, what content do I want to put in here? Well, that's going to be from this site. This div ID right here. Take it from here all the way down. Let's see if it lets me copy that. And just the way it is from here. Hang on a second. It didn't let me copy it over here. Might introduce some spaces in here again. If it does give me problems, I'm just going to use my code that I have right here as well before. Well, this has spaces too. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, so I'm going back now into the HTML source of the page, pasting the whole thing here. Okay, currently it's just got some mumbo jumbo kind of data, just you know, Italian, I think. Anyway, so I want this information to appear in section 1. I want this information to appear in section 2, etc. Let's see if it works. Okay, save. Here we go. Section 1's got all this stuff. Section 2, Section 3, and Section 4. So you want to, you know, give a awesome surprise to your users with some nice functionality. There we go. Pretty easy to do that. And all it requires is the script editor and just being able to go into the page and change stuff around. Okay, pretty simple to do that. All right, one more thing, and then we'll take some more questions, do some more Q&A. Something that actually has been around for a while, people don't realize it. It's let me just show that to you. So let's make a new app for this. Add an app. Oops. Okay, so it's adding an app right now, and we're going to make it a custom list. Custom list. There we go, custom list. And I'll just call it customers when it comes up. Okay, customers. What I really want to do is put some information in here in this customers list. And you know, traditionally, what you do is you go into the actual list, you click on new item, and you're adding it one at a time. Now, those of you who are veterans of SharePoint, you know that there's another way, of course. It's called a datasheet view. Right? So datasheet view used to appear right here when you go to list, and you click on datasheet view, which is not there anymore. It's called quick edit. The problem was it didn't always work. So depending on which browser you're using, Internet Explorer, of course, worked almost always, but didn't always work in Firefox. There were some special components you could use to make it work and all. It was just painful, you know, because your users expect things to work. They don't really care about the browser they're using or whatever. It just should work. So now that's been replaced with quick edit functionality. Quick edit, same exact thing, but I mean, the technology is different, but the same exact experience you get. Another really cool thing about this thing is you can actually modify the column structure directly from here as well, which is so awesome, I think. Meaning title, right? I don't want it to be called title. Every custom list gives me this title column that I don't really care for. So I'm going to click on the drop down and say rename column. And what I really wanted to say is customer ID. And I want to make a new column here as well, and it's going to be a text column. You can also have more column types. See, this kind of stuff you could do directly from create column here, but why do it from there if you could do it even easily? So all this stuff, by the way, is new in SharePoint 2013. This did not exist in 2010. Click on here and say customer name. Okay, and many times what people want to do is they want to just take stuff that they already have in a spreadsheet like this one and copy and paste it into their site, right? So let me go ahead and take some stuff, copy it, and then go back here to paste it in. It's Control V, and just like that, it's done. Simplicity, that's the name of the game, right? If you give simple options like this to your users, they'll just come back to it and use it again and again. If you make it more difficult, it just becomes more and more difficult to get their buy-in into that. But that's not all. I wanted to show you something else that, like I said before, that other functionality did exist in 2010, but I just didn't see many people utilizing it because they didn't understand what was going on. So a quick example, let's make another app, and that's going to be for orders. So we got customers, which we used this awesome quick edit view to populate, and now we're going to make, when it comes, an orders list. So that's going to be a custom list as well, called orders. This one, I'm going to say, let's do this. Once again, list, quick edit view. Pretty cool view, isn't it? And this one is going to be, let's rename this one to, and then for this one, actually, I would need another column type, and that's going to be a lookup column. So it's going to give me a different interface to choose that from, which is fine. Still, you know, being able to directly go from here to this interface helps quite a bit. This one's going to be customer ID, and this one's going to be a lookup. Okay, so obviously you can tell where I'm going with this thing. It's going to be customer ID lookup. into the customers list. Okay, still refreshing, I think. There we go. And the lookup that I want to do is going to be on customer ID. That is correct. And let's show the customer name in this view as well, is what I'm saying. Okay, that's good. Let's just do this for this example. I'm going too deep. So, you know, when you have relational data, which many times we do, we don't really portray it nicely like we should. I'm just going to show you a quick way of doing that. Here's what I mean. So item, I don't know, oranges. My customer, let's go ahead and pick one. So that's all different customers that I got in there. ANATR, fine. Apple, apples, and we'll make that ANATR as well. Bananas, getting hungry now. That's going to be BRGS. So you see it's filling up the customer name automatically as well when you do that, right? Let's just go with this. So NATR and BRGS. Okay. What I want to do now, I got these two lists, orders list, customers list. If I go to a page where I want to utilize these things, let's make a new page. And we'll call this page, why not customer orders? Let's call it that. Customer orders, right? I want to utilize that information here, but I don't want to show it segmented. I want to show both of those lists together with the relation and everything else, and I don't want to go through the whole thing of connecting web parts and this and that. I don't know how to do that because I'm not as technical. So here's what you have to do. Insert web part, and yeah, I do want to add customers, fine. But then I also want information that's in the orders list be put in there automatically or automagically, like I like to call it. So one thing that people didn't realize, it was introduced in 2010, but not as much use as I thought it would be, is when you click on this web part, you click on web part tab, there's an insert related list button. And this shows you all the different lists that are related to this one. For example, in this case, orders, right? And if you click on it, and if I did things correctly, I'll have to remember. Yeah, let me save this here. It produces this select column, which means it has made a connection for you automatically or automagically. And now it's showing all the orders from ALFKI, which there are none. So we'll click on ANATR. Okay, thinking, there we go. So oranges and apples, and I know that BERGS also has an order that's there. So is this something that was not there even in 2007? Of course, we had functionality like that even back in SharePoint 2007, but it's all about using it much easily. I mean, we talked about just some simple data, and we talked about simple connection that's there right now. Imagine if you had 5 different lists, and they all had some relational things going on, and also some restrictions on deletion and all that stuff. And you want to show the whole quote-unquote database of your data. It's not really that robust, but you know, for your team, let's say, you want to show all the data for your team right there on one page. All you got to do is throw in the main table that has relations everywhere, and then say insert the related list, orders, order details, products, vendors, partners, whatever you want, and then everything is going to get assigned for you automatically. You click on one customer like BRGS, and all the information that's related to that customer will automatically appear on the page. And that, I think, without having to make the specific connections and knowing where to make the connections and all that stuff, is a big blessing for people who don't really care about understanding the connections and all that other stuff. They just want things to work like they're supposed to work. So I think that's a big plus for the site owners, doing it that way. Okay, so I am done. Sonia, I'm sure there are some other questions that you will want me to answer, so I am ready, at least to attempt them. So let's go at that.
Okay, great. So let's get started with some more Q&A. We have a little bit over 10 questions queued up so far. So the first one I'll read off to you is from Natalia, and it's a very detailed question. So, Asif, I have noticed in the site collection level, I have documents library and also site collection documents. This system library was created by the Publishing Resources feature to store documents that are used throughout the site collection. Is there any difference between them? Is this the same way SharePoint 2013 OTB publishing site creation creates two documents?
Yeah, that functionality works same as it did in 2010. That's how it is in 2013. At least I have not found anything that's different. There's a site collection document. There's also a site collection pictures. And the idea behind both of those things is at the site collection level, when you want to store your artifacts, your pictures, your documents, or whatever, you go ahead and put them in there. So if I'm a sub-site owner, I can only, you can provide this guidance, this governance, for example, that you can only get the published or the approved pictures which are hosted in the site collection pictures library, which happens to be at the top level site. So they would have to navigate to that whenever they're inserting a picture. There's a nice navigation feature in publishing sites. So they would have to navigate there to get those pictures from there, or same thing for documents, getting from there. So the functionality, at least to my understanding, unless things have changed that I don't know about, but the functionality remains the same. It's the same exact idea, same exact concept, and I think it's a good concept to have that uniformity within the organization.
Okay, great. The next question is from Aaron. What is the feature that needs to be turned on to support geo-mapping? Asif, are you still there? Oh, it seems as if we may have lost the...
Yeah.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very, very lightly.
Had a blimp over here. Okay, I'm here.
Okay, so I'll read the question again. This is from Aaron. What is the feature that needs to be turned on to support geo-mapping?
Okay, so if you don't have geolocation, geo-mapping turned on, I'm trying to get it back in the environment. It threw me out from there. There is some specific PowerShell commands that you have to execute. Okay, let me see. Let me refresh this and see if it lets me get in this way. So yeah, there's some specific PowerShell commands that you have to execute in order for you to get in, to be able to have that become available. And I want to show those to you, but it won't let me get in here. Maybe let me get out, connect back. So SharePoint Server 2013 farm. Well, if it does give me, here we go. Okay, so in case you don't have that information, let me provide that to you right here. These are the 5 lines of PowerShell code that you would have to put in there. And this turns it on for your web app, basically. So this is the address that you'll want to provide. This is the actual display name and the field type of what you want the column to be called. I called it geolocation, but you can also name it something else if you want to. This is arbitrary. Okay, and then everything else remains the same. So what I'm going to do is I'll take this stuff, Control-C, and maybe I'll put it into a chat. I think I can do that for everybody, right, Sonia? Let's see. No, I can't.
Yes, you should be able to.
I'm just seeing the chat for sending it to you, sending the panelists, and that's about it. So let me go ahead and send it to you guys at least, and maybe you can go ahead and put this in to the answer to the question.
Okay, I'm copying and pasting it right now for everyone.
Okay. Yeah, so you guys can use this code as well, but of course this is PowerShell, meaning you have to have access to the server to be able to do that, and you have to, of course, understand what you're doing. I mean, it doesn't really put any bad things on your server or anything else. In fact, it's just enabling something that's already there. It's just not surfaced. So it's there, but it's not enabled, and you're enabling it for your web app in this case by doing that. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And that is in the chat window now for everyone, should be able to see it.
Great.
The next question is from Subodh. Can we use the map view for list view web parts?
Yeah, so it's just a view, right? That's all it is. And because it's just a view, you can go ahead and use the map view for anything you want to use it for. So in my case, let me see if I can get there again, is the salespeople map view, which is list current view all contacts. It's moving a little bit slow. Okay, well, come on. There we go. So all you gotta do is put the web part on any page for the salespeople list in this case, for example, and then as long as you have the web part showing this particular view, you know, it will show the whole map just like that. Do remember that you need to go to bingmapsportal.com to be able to get your, like it says, free developer account. It's not really for only developers. Anybody can get it, and then you have to just provide that key to your SharePoint server just one time.
Okay, there's a few other questions related to map view. I'll start going through them. The next one is from John. On the map view, is there a way to get rid of the header, for example, last name, first name, etc.?
Well, John, if you had asked me that question when we had the design view for SharePoint Designer, then I would have said, yes, of course, it's extremely easy. All you got to do is bring up this view in design view within SharePoint Designer, and off you go. All you got to do is go into this column and say, I don't want this, this row, and say, I don't want this row, and delete. However, things have changed. In SharePoint Designer 2013, if you bring up this view, all you get is a code view and not the design view for this thing. So you can still make that happen. You can still find the actual row, this row, and say, I don't want it. But you have to do everything in the code view within SharePoint Designer because design view is gone, as hopefully most of you already know. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can go to you can just do a search, general search for SharePoint Designer 2013 Design View. You might end up on my blog post that I did many, many months ago, or other places which will talk about that.
Okay, and then the next question was for map view, is there any limitation of map view?
Well, I can't say that I've dug extremely deep into the map view. So in terms of limitations, I have not found any yet with what I have done. So I don't think so. You can even pass parameters directly into this column if you wanted to provide latitude and longitude from a different web part, making these two parameters open. So we could do all that good stuff, but I don't know. I'm sure there's limitations. I just have not run into any so far or have read upon any so far.
Okay, then moving on, we have some SharePoint 2013 questions. The first one is from Alex. How does SharePoint 2013 store data, list structure changes, and can they be pointed to external sources?
Okay, I think I missed the beginning portion of that. One more time.
Sure. How does SharePoint 2013 store data? And then there are two other questions that Alex added on to that. List structure changes, and can they be pointed to external sources?
Yeah, so storage of data has not changed from before. It's all stored in SQL in databases. You have a one-to-one relationship or you could have one-to-one relationship with a web application to a site to a database, and you can have multiple site collections within the database. And all this stuff is in there. Connected to external sources to get information within SharePoint, there are many different ways of doing that. One that has been since long time ago, about 10 years ago now, was Front Page at that time, and then became SharePoint Designer. And you can still do that in SharePoint Designer, but because the design view is gone, it just becomes more difficult to do that because you have to do it in code view. Another way is to use VCS, business connectivity services. You can make BCS connections to any data source you want, and then go ahead and pull the data in that way. So you definitely want to read up on BCS. You'll also find there's lots of video content on business connectivity services on our SharePointVideos.com site as well if you want to peruse some of the free ones there.
Okay. And the next question is from Suhail. He asks, is adding scripts to a page a new feature in SharePoint 2013? Or can this be done in SharePoint 2010 as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, script you could add even way back in 2003 or even before that maybe. But the way we had done it before was we had to go into the source editor of the content editor web part, which is still available. So you still have content editor web part in 2010 and 2007 as well in SharePoint, so you can go ahead and go there and add the script there. It's a little bit different interface, a little bit different way of doing it. Now they just call it a different web part altogether. So this is a superset of the content editor web part the way it used to be. But yeah, you can use content editor web part in 2010 as well to make that happen.
Okay, and then Chris has a question. On SharePoint 2007, you needed to have versioning turned on if you had a multi-line / timestamp type column. Does SharePoint 2013 change that? For example, allow multi-line / timestamp without forcing versioning?
I have not seen any change in regards to that, so I believe it's the exact same in 2013. None of the documentations or the functionality itself, the way it works, tells me otherwise.
Okay. Trond has a question. What kind of column is geolocation?
So it is a geolocation type of column. That's the column type. And as I was mentioning before, that if you don't see the geolocation column type under custom columns heading when you go to site columns gallery, that just means that the geolocation column has not been enabled yet. And to enable it, you can use that PowerShell that I provided. It's not my specific PowerShell. This is a PowerShell that's available, that's been put out there by Microsoft, by other SharePoint experts as well. So please, when and if you use that PowerShell, you use it at your own risk. By the way, let me say that as well. Don't do it and say, hey, Asif told me to do that. And this is, of course, your prerogative, whether to use it or not. But if you do use it, then the geolocation column type becomes available under custom columns within site columns.
Alex has another question. I'm a programmer. Is the source code available for these web parts as templates or reference?
Well, Alex, I am not a programmer myself anymore. So here's what my developer friends or programmer friends in SharePoint tell me, that no, most of these things are sealed. You could use tools, to be able to look at some of the code, but most of it is obfuscated, basically. It's kind of hidden. I don't believe you are able to look at all the different code that you would need to be able to extend the existing web parts and all. But that's my understanding so far, not being a developer in SharePoint anymore. I used to be about 6-7 years ago. It seems like a long time ago now.
Okay, Subodh has another question. How do you use PowerPoint layout as a theme?
Well, the PowerPoint layouts and Word layouts in 2010 were the primary ways that you made themes in SharePoint 2010. Both of those things are not available anymore. So now what you would have to do is you have to pull up the theme files within Style Library. You'll see the font files, the color files, and everything else, and then you would have to change those manually, the way I understand it, to be able to make it similar to what you're looking for within your PowerPoint theme. Now, the other part of it I am not too familiar with, but there are other things my friends tell me that you could do, maybe using Design Manager or using Dreamweaver even to make some files specific to the kind of colors and theme that you're looking for, and then be able to insert it directly as HTML file within your SharePoint site, and the HTML actually builds the master page for you. Okay, but I've not gone deeper into that side, into that branding dark side yet, or I might never do because that's not my forte. But that's what I hear. You have other options also that you can use as a branding person to be able to make that happen.
Okay, and Asif, we have about 9 questions left. Do you just want to take one or two more?
Yeah, let's just take 1 or 2 more. Most of them, I think we'll have to end it.
Okay. Mike has another question. Do you have tips to work around the threshold limitation of 8 lookup columns in SharePoint?
No, there is no workaround that I know of, unfortunately.
Okay. And Mark has a question. Cross-site list relations. Well, I'm not sure exactly the context of this question. It just says cross-site list relations, comma,
Okay.
cross-site collections list relations, question mark.
So, when you, I think what he's asking is that the kind of stuff that we did with the relations list, can you do that cross-site? Can you have one list here and one list in a different site or different site collection altogether and make this kind of relation, lookup relation? And no, you can't do that. The lookups still remain to be on the site. There are other companies out there which have found ways to do lookups. Meaning there are vendors out there which will sell you something, which will let you do a lookup on a different site. That has existed since even the SharePoint 2010 days. So you can definitely do that. And if you are able to do that, then automatically, of course, you can produce the relations list. But out of the box, if you're asking, no, you can't do that. Now, the only thing that I would recommend, of course, it requires more effort than what I showed you, is you use something like a search content web part or a search results web part. Those are pretty awesome web parts in SharePoint 2013. And then you show the information that you want to show, and then use a filter web part. And the filter web part can go ahead and get information from the query parameters or session parameters or wherever you want it to get, or just text parameter that your users put in directly, and then they click on submit and automatically it filters everything for them, maybe in multiple lists, and shows them what you're looking for. But these are kind of workarounds for what you can't do out of the box.
Okay, great. And since we're almost at 15 minutes past the hour, we'll just do one more question, if that's all right with you, Asif.
Okay.
Okay, so Alex has another question. Is SharePoint 2013 limited when clients are using various versions of MS Office?
So depending on the version of Office, you will have different kind of experience with SharePoint 2013. But the good thing is some of the stuff that was more dependent on SharePoint, for example, the datasheet view, which is now the quick edit view, that, the way I understand it, has no limitation anymore as to which Office component you have on your desktop. Opening up a document, editing a document, etc. When you open up something that, for example, has some external data field or has a term store field, well, obviously, if you don't have SharePoint 2010 or beyond, if you don't have Office 2010 or beyond, it won't show you those fields, like the external data field or the term store field, things like that. But apart from that, I think everything else is going to be simple and straightforward, and it will show you, as long as you have SharePoint 2007 and beyond, I believe it should show you the server metadata. It should show you, of course, the content of your document. And if there's any workflows that are associated that are available in the library, I believe Office 2007 should show you that as well, but I'm not 100% sure. At least Office 2010 should show you that. Yeah, but aside from those things, there's no other limitation that I know about working with the previous version of Office 2010, for example, with SharePoint 2013.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for sending in all those great questions. And thank you very much, Asif, for presenting and preparing this hands-on session for everyone today. I just want to remind everyone who is still attending inside the webinar that we will be sending a follow-up email to you with a link to the recording. So in case you weren't taking notes during this session, you will have access to the full presentation coming soon. And thank you very much again, everyone.
Yes, thank you very much, folks. It's been a pleasure.